Hey everyone, it's Zahava. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be wrapping up all the books that I read in August. I am filming this video a few days before the end of the month. I think 2 or 3 days before the end of the month, because I just have some scheduling issues, and also filming for you guys is kind of like a mental checklist item for me. And quite honestly, I have had such a time this month. Like, it's been a really challenging month for me in terms of like reading goals, all that jazz. So I just kind of want to sweep it under the rug, if I'm honest, get it over with, and move on to the month of September, where we have already selected some reads, which I can link for you either in the info card. I don't know if it's going to come up here or come up here, but I will link to the September TBR Teapot video where we selected the books that I will potentially be reading in September. I think that there's a good chance that I will probably read all of them, so definitely go and check out that video. And let's just jump right into August, because I am in my feels. So as always, I will be sort of referencing my script and my notes here, you know, just in case I forget things, and I'll try and edit all that out if it's boring for you. So basically, I want to just bring you up to date with the August TBR Teapot selections. Did I read everything that we picked out for this August? No, I didn't. There were 2 books that I didn't read. I didn't end up reading The Fury of the Gods by John Gwynne. I had just finished reading The Hunger of the Gods, and I just was sort of underwhelmed with that one, so I wasn't really in a hurry to go ahead and finish The Fury of the Gods, which I know, you know, I had said in the previous video that I was kind of excited to finish, but in the end, no, I was not excited to finish it. I really didn't care, and I really did not want to subject myself to that world again for whatever reason. The other book that I decided not to proceed with, and I think I'm just going to end up unhauling this book without even reading it, because the truth of the matter is I don't really want to read it, and that is Stephen King's The Stand. And I think that it's not because it's over 1,000 pages that I don't want to read it, which I'm sure would be enough of a reason for a lot of you guys not to want to read this book, but I actually just don't know if Stephen King and I are a match of writer to reader. Like, I know that I've spoken to you guys before about having read some of his short stories in the past, but I just don't know if I can commit myself to Stephen King as a writer. I find that he can be very long-winded and talk to you about a lot of things that you really don't need to know or care about. And if I'm going to read Stephen King, I think that short stories, or certainly shorter books, will be the way for me to go, just because I don't have the attention span necessary to properly consume a Stephen King novel. That being said, I've never actually completed a Stephen King novel. I do have a copy of The Gunslinger, which I haven't started yet, and I have read a few of his short stories. So in the end, I just don't want to read this. So I'm going to end up putting this in the box that I have of unhaul books, which we are going to get to at the end of the year. So if that is something that you guys want to see and come and do like a big unhaul with me, then definitely this would be a great time to like the video and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you can get notified of all of my upcoming videos. So this one is it's not even like a DNF. It's like I'm just not interested in reading it. So next we're going to get into the reading stats for August, which I will put up next to me in an image for you to follow along. So in August, I had 9 DNFs. I read 3,813 pages. 2 of the books were library reads, 4 were audiobooks, 2 were advanced listeners copies, which I got from NetGalley, and I completed 8 from my physical TBR. In total, I read 11 books in August, and that is the amount of books that I completed in the month of August, which is pretty much at par with what I normally read, which is anywhere between 10 and let's say 14 books. If I'm having a really good month, I might read 16, because I do listen to a lot of books on audio, but for some reason this month, because I had so many DNFs, there was a lot of time essentially wasted figuring out if I was going to continue with certain books or not. And then there was one book that I finished reading, which I'll tell you about shortly, which I really, in retrospect, never should have finished. So we'll get to that. So let us start out with the DNFs. So the first book that I DNF'd this month is The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichek, I think is how you pronounce it. This was a library listen that I borrowed on Libby, and it was just boring. It was just boring, so I ended up like DNFing that. If you guys want to go check out other people's Goodreads ratings of these books, by the way, like all these DNF ratings, I would say that like my opinions are very much in line with the people that have DNF'd the books for the same reasons or given them like 2 or 1 stars. I don't usually rate books that I've DNF'd, but sometimes I do. I guess it depends if I'm feeling salty or not, but sometimes I will. But in this case, I didn't. I'm not exactly sure how much I made it of the way through, but I know that the story was just not going anywhere for me, and I didn't like the writing. It was really boring, so I DNF'd that one. The next one that I ended up DNFing is The Kingdoms by Natasha Pulley. This is a case where it was a really well-received book when it came out. It's got very high ratings, something like above 4 stars. It is a sci-fi. It has to do with time travel, but I think that it was a question of the prose being just a little too dense for me and requiring too much of me in terms of the effort that I was willing to give it at the time. I thought that I would originally soft DNF this book and then maybe pick it up at a later date, but in the end, when I saw it sitting on the end table, I was like, you know what? Realistically, I'm probably not going to pick up this book anytime soon and or ever. And if it's just sitting there haunting me, I'm better off probably to unload it. So I don't know what it was. I really wanted to like it, but I don't know. I maybe made it like 20-30% of the way in, and I was just like, I don't know. It just wasn't working for me, so I decided to put it down. Next, I DNF'd What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. And this one, I think I may have spoken to you guys about in a previous vlog, but essentially it is a YA novel. It's part of a series. I think the 3rd book is coming out sometime soon. I don't know if it's this year or next year, but I feel kind of let down by this one because it was in the adult section at Book Outlet when I bought it, and I guess I really didn't do my research properly. I probably should have gone on to Goodreads and looked at the tags and everything about this one because it is a YA in the end. It does center around a 19-year-old protagonist, but it reads as if she's like 14 or 15 years old in her head. So I had nothing in common with this book. I didn't care. I tried to stick with it because I liked the idea that she was 19 years old and she wanted to travel the world, and she was sort of presenting herself as a widow so that people wouldn't kind of bother her, if that makes sense, because it wouldn't be appropriate for a woman to be traveling alone. But then it read like, I don't know if this is supposed to be a romantasy or what it's supposed to be, but it didn't read like an adult novel, so I just wasn't jiving with it, and I ended up putting it down. The next book I DNF'd is Pride and Prejudice in Space, and this is a very, very heavy book. This has got to weigh like almost a kilo or more. I'm actually going to go weigh it, and I'll tell you exactly. Be right back. So it actually weighs more than a kilo. It is 1.282 kilograms, which is crazy. It's a hardcover. It's illustrated. I think I may have shown you some of this on camera already. It's really pretty in terms of a book to collect and have on your bookshelf. Let's see if I can find some nicer. See? It's got really nice formatting and stuff, but essentially the reason that I DNF'd this book is because it's pretty much a verbatim retelling of Pride and Prejudice. Like, no creative license was attributed to this aside from the fact that the author decided to set it in space. So it's pretty much exactly the dialogue. It's bordering, I think, on plagiarism, personally, but I think that because the author did some drawings, because there were some illustrations involved, and because the setting was in space, and because there was a decent amount of thought put into the world building and the setting and all of that, I think it probably like is just skirting the border of like being plagiarized or not. I feel like she took, now I have never read Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. I've never read it. I have seen about 4 or 5 different film versions of it. I feel like I know the story pretty well. This book kind of lost its luster for me about 40 pages in, and I just did not feel like I wanted to return to it. So I would say that it's a book that I might keep for a while just to have it on my bookshelves if I ever want to reference the artwork, but I would tell you that the artwork is probably the best thing about it. So this one was a DNF. Next, I DNF'd Lost Gods by Brom. This was a library loan. I originally thought it was supposed to be a horror novel, but it turns out it was a fantasy novel, and in the end, it just wasn't good, so I DNF'd it. It felt very, like, amateur in terms of writing, and I know that's kind of like a hard thing to say because Brom has so many books out there, and I still have, you can even see it right here, I have a copy of Evil in Me, which I fully intend to try, but I just did not like the story or where it was going. The main character's name was a name that I can't remember now, so I'll put it across the screen, but I remember, oh yeah, no, I do remember. The main character's name was Chet, and I was like, and I'm sorry if your name is Chet, okay, but that is just like kind of a stupid name for a protagonist in a story. Like, it just did not lend to seriousness for me, so I had like a lot of trouble believing what was happening in the story. I think I vlogged about this at some point in one of my earlier vlogs, which I can also link to in an info card if you guys want to go check out more details about this book, but I'm not going to spend time talking about it here. So the next book that I DNF'd is going to be Antelope Woman by Louise Erdrich, and this one just didn't work for me. It started off kind of okay, talking about a family saga of how a family was formed and how one man who was supposed to be fighting in a war decided to sort of abandon his troops, and he found a baby strapped to the back of a dog, and he took the baby in and started taking care of it. And then we fast forward a few years to him marrying a woman who has come to teach in the area, and it's sort of just like how the family is being built and how this white man and this Native American baby that he took in, they come to have like an interracial family, and it has to do with how the family from the white man's side and the Native American side sort of come together, how they stay connected over the generations and stuff. But ultimately, I didn't really resonate with the prose and the pacing of this novel, so it didn't work for me. It is my first by this author, and I'm kind of sad that I couldn't get into it as much as I'd wanted to, and maybe it was a question of my mood at the time, because August had not been going well for me, and it was just sort of one DNF after another for the first week and a half of the month. And this, unfortunately, was one of those victims. I do have another Louise Erdrich up there, which is The Mighty Red, which I haven't tried yet, so I'm going to give that one a try. I don't know if it's a question of the author isn't for me, or maybe this book was just not for me, but for whatever reason, I will try her a second time before making that decision. I also took out Arctic Predator from the library. This was a nonfiction title, and I've already vlogged about this book on the channel, so I'll put the link to the video here if you guys want to go check it out. This one ended up as a DNF because I just got bored and lost interest in reading it, though I still do think that it's an important read, because we certainly do need to know that there are crimes being committed against children in Canada's north. Ultimately, for me, I just ended up losing interest in it. Next was an advanced listener's copy that I was granted by NetGalley. This was The Alchemy of Flowers. Again, this one started out like it wanted to be a little bit witchy, about a lady who pretty much has nothing going on in her life. She ends up taking a job in France. She goes to this castle where weird things are happening, and she's there as a gardener, and basically she meets, it's kind of like supposed to be a found family type of novel, but I don't know, I DNF'd it because I just got bored, and it just didn't appeal to me after a while anymore, and I felt myself feeling like I was forced to go back to it because of the fact that NetGalley allowed me to have the advanced listener's copy, and sometimes it makes me feel kind of guilty, so anyway, I DNF'd that one because I lost interest in it. I'm not sure where it was going, if it was going anywhere at all, so not for me. Now let's talk about some completed reads. Okay, so the first one that I completed successfully this month was Shakespeare for Squirrels by Christopher Moore. It is my first Christopher Moore. This one I listened to on audio, and it was cheeky and fun and a retelling of A Midsummer Night's Dream, which is my absolute favorite Shakespeare play. I'm not a Romeo and Juliet girly. I do like King Lear in the tragedies, but in the comedies, for me, my ultimate favorite is going to be A Midsummer Night's Dream. And this one is kind of like a murder mystery / comedy, where Puck, who I believe is, I think Puck is murdered, and our protagonist, whose name I don't remember. Oh yeah, our protagonist is the Fool, because this is the third book in the Fool series by Christopher Moore, but can actually be read as a standalone novel, so you don't need to read the first two, because they're all sort of takes on Shakespeare, as I understand, and they all focus on different retellings of Shakespeare's plays. But I happen to have access to this copy at my library, so this is the one that I went with, and it happened to be my favorite Shakespeare play, so it worked out for me. I would say that Christopher Moore is very cheeky, lots of sex jokes, which are really fun, and yeah, I just had a really good time with that. I ended up giving it 3 stars. Happily now I can talk to you about my first 5-star read of the month, and that is The Husband's Secret by Liane Moriarty. Now, I had read Here One Moment by her. This is the second book I've read by this author, and it just delivered the exact same thing that I had come to expect from Here One Moment. I really like the prose, I like the storytelling, I like the way she writes, the vocabulary she chooses, the pacing, the tone. Everything really worked for me, and this was one of the ones that we picked in the August TBR Teapot jar. This was for a family secret. I ended up annotating this book as well, so I would say it's a mystery novel. I don't know if it's a thriller necessarily, but there's definitely a mysterious element to that. There's a mystery to solve. We all want to know what the husband's secret is, and essentially it has to do with a woman who is cleaning out, I don't know, her attic or something. I mean, I could be wrong, but she stumbles upon this letter that has been written to her to be opened only after the event of her husband's death, and then she has to decide, given this information, whether or not she's going to open that letter, what the results of that decision might be. And it kind of focuses on like a small town, a small community where everybody is sort of involved in each other's lives in one way or another. And this book ended in a way that I really appreciate. which is that everything is sort of wrapped up. There are no loose ends. Everybody kind of gets what they deserve. Everyone has an ending that is appropriate to their situation based on the actions that they've taken, decisions that they've made in the novel. So I had a really good time with this one. I was happy to finally finish a book and give it 5 stars. So yay for this one. Highly recommend. Next, I listened on audio to Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. This was a book I really wish I had DNF'd. like in the end, I just found the book very long, very boring. I feel like I was desperate to have a good audio listen this month, and I just wasn't lucky. I did end up finishing this. I do have a copy of the Final Girls support group, which I will hopefully get to eventually, because Witchcraft for Wayward Girls was just long and boring and didn't give me any horror vibes at all. Just had to do essentially with the abuse of unwed mothers, young teenage mothers, and how they were treated or viewed in the 60s. And it was just, I don't know, it was kind of meh for me. And honestly, it was really a struggle to finish for me, because by the end I was listening to the audio on 2 times speed or even 2.5 times speed, because I just wanted to make it to the end of it, because I had DNF'd so many books already this month. But ultimately I gave this book 2 stars, and I can never get this time back. Next, I had another 5-star read, which is The Bloodless Princes by Charlotte Bond. And this is the second in, I want to say a duology, but potentially it could be a trilogy, I don't know. This book is 160 pages, so very doable in 1 day or 2, and it has dragons, and it's a sapphic love story, and it's got a flying cat, so very fun. Charlotte Bond, if you're watching this, we need more. We need more of these two, and because it's the second of a series, I don't want to say too much about it. I just love the way that Charlotte Bond does her world building, because you get to know more about the lore and the world and the history of this world through various texts and transcripts that don't necessarily have to do with the main plot of the novel. So they're just kind of like appendices, but they're within the novella itself. So you don't have to go to the end of the book in order to get all of that. It's kind of part and parcel of going through the novel, where you get to, and I don't know, it's just so well done. She's giving Robin Hobb vibes, which I really like in terms of the world building. I would just really like to see the author continue with these two ladies. It's just such a fun time, and it feels so cozy and so enriching, and she packs a lot of punch into very little pages, so it's always going to be a win for me. Next, we have my first 4-star read of the month, and that is going to be We Used to Live Here. This is by Marcus Cleaver. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but this was such a good time. If you guys have heard hype about this, believe the hype. It was so good. I am definitely on the lookout for his next novel. He has another one that's coming out. I don't know if it's this year or next year. It's just been announced, but this is a story about a family who actually it's a lesbian couple who buys an old fixer-upper house, and one night when Eve is alone in the house, people knock on the door, and it's pretty much starts exactly right on the first page. People knock on the door and they say, "Hey, I grew up in this house. Can I come in? Can I come and see what the house looks like? I want to show my family." It's a family of a father, a wife, a mother. I think there are 2 boys and a young girl. I don't know if there's 1 or 2 boys, but the kids are at least 1 boy and 1 girl. I'm pretty sure there's 2 boys. And yeah, and then of course this is a horror novel and a bit of a mystery novel, and things happen in this house, which I don't want to talk to you about, because it would really, like, in the same way that people talk about Piranesi and they say, I can't tell you too much about this novel without ruining it for you, it's kind of the same in this scenario. What I will say is that there's a lot of fun formatting in this novel, so if that helps you to read a book because it breaks up your brain a little bit, so that you're not reading like very dense text a lot, this is really fun. If you look at the cover, this will kind of give you an indication as to what you can expect. So, so make of that what you will, but I had a really, really great time with this one, and I would definitely say that it's worth the hype. Now, I can't remember, unfortunately, which YouTuber suggested to me to read this book, but I know that I had watched somebody's YouTube video. Maybe I wasn't subscribed to their channel, unfortunately, but they had suggested to me to pick up I'm Thinking of Ending Things as one of their favorite books that they have ever read. I happen to have a copy of this book as part of one of my eBay hauls, and I kept this book aside thinking that I would read it eventually. I ended up taking it on vacation with me, and I read it there, and it ended up being a really decent book for me. It's kind of a mystery thriller type book, which I don't want to ruin for you guys by saying too much in this video right now. I know it's a series on Netflix. I don't subscribe to Netflix, so I haven't seen it, but I'm sure that if it's anything like the book, it's going to be a fantastic series. I think that this book is really worth the hype. I liked it. I liked the prose. It's got very short chapters. It's very accessible, and it reads really well. And yeah, I have really nothing more to say about it than it's a great book. 3 stars. If you guys have ever been to my Goodreads, you will know that 3 stars for me is a very respectable rating. It means I had a really good time with the book. I would recommend it, but I might eventually unhaul it. So it's not to say anything if the book is good or bad. I had a really good time with it. Would I suggest that you guys read it? If you haven't read it, yes, it's a good book. It's a quick read, and if you're in a reading slump, this might get you out of it. So that's probably, if I was ever going to do a video about books to get out of a reading slump, this would probably be on it. My third 5-star read of August is Drowning, which is the Rescue of Flight 1421 by TJ Newman. This one gave everything that Worst Case Scenario gave. It was action-packed right from the start. It was short chapters, really compelling prose. I will say that TJ Newman is absolutely horrific to her protagonists and her heroes. She's really mean to them. She does really terrible things to the characters in her novels, but you're definitely on the edge of your seat. There's definitely reason to root for and even hate some of the characters that you see in this novel, and it's just a really nice way of seeing how people come together to work when there is a disaster that happens. So if you guys don't know what this book is about, it is about an airplane that is forced to crash land in the ocean, and the plane sinks, and basically there are survivors aboard this plane, and they, the rescue teams have to get them out. It is the rescue of this flight, as it says on the titles. So again, action-packed, and the ending is great. Things wrap up really, really nicely. It is an edge-of-your-seat thriller, and I highly, highly recommend. I had another NetGalley arc, or I should say ALC, because it was an advanced listener's copy, and that is The Island of Lost Things. So basically this book is focusing on a group of zookeepers that work on Alcatraz, taking care of the last remaining animals on the planet. It's sort of like a climate fiction / dystopian novel with a little bit of coming of age. It has to do with one zookeeper and how she's sort of navigating her life and her place in this world, which has been sort of sequestered to the island after an airborne fungus sort of infects the entire world, and which has caused the demise of plants and animals, etc. So everybody's just trying to keep afloat, type of thing. I think ultimately the ending fell a little bit flat for me. I just didn't love the ending, but it was an okay book. The book just moved like a little slowly for me, and I found that I didn't really care too much about the characters. And also the stakes, I didn't feel like there was enough tension, or that the stakes were, I mean, there were high stakes, but I didn't feel that there was enough tension in the novel to sort of support the high stakes that you would expect from the subject matter. And also the book is a little bit queer in the sense that there's a homosocial relationship between Sailor and Camille, and I really feel like I would have liked to see a physical manifestation of that at some point, but the author chose, for whatever reason, not to go down that road. I feel like it would have added a little bit more, and it would have raised the stakes given the way that the story ends. Next, I read The Return of Ellie Black, which is also a mystery thriller. This one was a 3.5 star for me. I liked it. I would recommend it for sure. It has to do with a girl that has gone missing. She's missing for about 2 years, and then all of a sudden she reappears in this community, and she refuses to talk about where she was or what happened to her while she was missing. And so you have this detective who, of course, is on the case and has been following Ellie's disappearance for the previous 2 years. And Chelsea obviously wants to figure out what happened to Ellie. So basically it's just a mystery thriller, and it's very atmospheric, very accessible language. I think it would appeal to a wide variety of readers. And despite the fact that I feel that the author maybe didn't exactly know how to end this book well, I did end up finishing it in 2 days, so it definitely held my interest, and I was very happy with it. I also read A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. This one is kind of a cheat read, I guess, for me, because I have a copy of the book physically, but I ended up reading it on audio because, as I mentioned before, I was having a really hard time finding available audiobooks this month from the library, and this was the most interesting thing to me at the time. And since I knew that I would read this book eventually, I just ended up doing the audio version, which was pretty standard T. Kingfisher. I gave it a 3 or a 3.5. It was giving kind of cozy horror. Is that even a thing? I don't know. But if it is, that's what this book was giving. So this was like a standard T. Kingfisher novel, although it didn't hit quite as well as the other books that I have read from her before. You have a 32-year-old female protagonist who is trying to figure out what is going wrong with her mom and why her mom is displaying signs of dementia. I don't want to say too much more about that because it would give away the story, but essentially if you like gardening or birds or family lore, old houses, witchy business and also Zaftig women, you will probably have a really good time with this one. And it is a first-person point of view narrator who does have a very self-depreciating sense of humor, which I always enjoy. So if that's something you think you might be interested in, don't go into it expecting gory horror or anything that's going to give you chills in the night. It's not like that. Like I said, it's kind of cozy. But it worked for me, but it's not my favorite T. Kingfisher. And the last book we're going to talk about that I completed this month, which is going to sort of help us wrap up the end of this video, is The Ember Blade by Chris Wooding. And boy, should I have DNF'd this book. Boy, oh boy. All right, I considered actually putting this book down about 5 or 6 times. It is an over 800 page chunker. And it was so boring. It was so boring. I don't know. I think at some point, round about the 30% mark, I said to myself, I can't do this anymore. It was like eyes bleeding boring. Okay. It just, I don't know. It has such high ratings on Goodreads. Like, it's not rated by a whole bunch of people, but it's got very high ratings comparatively, like over 4 stars or something. But this book was so boring. It was so boring. And the only reason that I didn't put it down is because every time I thought I was going to put it down, and as I've mentioned, I got to that point about 5 or 6 times as I was going through it. The author would change the viewpoint character and introduce another viewpoint character. So I said to myself, okay, I'm going to read it through because the chapters are very short. There's no chapter that's longer than 6 pages. Okay. They're really short chapters. So it really makes you feel accomplished when you're going through it, and you feel like you're going to get through it pretty fast because of that. And there's nothing wrong with the prose or the language. There's nothing tough or, dense or difficult about it. It's very straightforward. It's kind of like a Chosen One, Lord of the Rings type of linear epic if you're looking for that in the fantasy realm. And so given all that, whenever the viewpoint character would change, I would say, okay, I want to know what things look like through this guy's lens or this girl's lens. And I would read on to sort of see where it was going, but it just was missing, I don't know, it was missing tension. It was very flat on the page. It was really like epic in scope, and definitely was trying to do the right thing, but was just falling short of it every single time. I got into about 500 or 600 pages in when I really couldn't stand it anymore, and I actually had to fast forward read the last 200 pages because I could not stomach or handle another DNF this month. And after having invested so much time into it, I fast forward read. So what does that mean? That means that I did what I did in university or in college. I would sort of go through the page top to bottom and sort of skim out the most important things because I couldn't anymore. It was it was that painful. And I just wanted to know how it ended because I had put in so much time. I'd put in so much time. So what can I say that was good about this book? What was good? The cover art is really nice. A lot of your main characters die, also a bonus. But that's it. That's it. Those are the only 2 things. So if you're asking me if I recommend this book, no. I annotated a couple of things, but I do not recommend this book. I don't. It was boring. It was giving Priory of the Orange Tree, and it was just, oh God. All right, so that is going to bring us to the end of today's video. I really appreciate you guys all if you are still here. You know that if you have made it to the end of this video, you're absolutely my favorite. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I hope you had a good time. If you have read any of these books or want to discuss them with me in the comments below, please go ahead. You know I love to interact with you in the comments, and I will definitely respond. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this, and I will see you again in the next video. Ciao for now.